Coming up on Chapman News, the president on the warpath, calling for the indictment of Barack Obama and Joe Biden. And who won the vice presidential debate? Harris and Pence face off, but a fly stole the show. And from ghost town to grad town, the first Chapman students back on campus.
From Dodge College of Film and Media Arts, this is Chapman News.
Welcome back to Chapman News. I'm Colette Ngo. We begin today with the latest news out of the White House. In his first interview since he came down with COVID-19, President Trump attacked the Attorney General, FBI Director, and a senior Justice Department prosecutor for not releasing damaging information about his perceived enemies, even going as far as calling for the indictment of Barack Obama and Joe Biden.
But these people should be indicted. This was the greatest political crime in the history of our country, and that includes Obama and it includes Biden. These are people that spied in my campaign, and we have everything. Now they say they have much more, okay?
During the same interview, he called vice presidential nominee Kamala Harris a, quote, monster. All this on a day of conflicting news about the next presidential debate. Here's Jasmine Sani with more.
Thanks, Colette. The coronavirus has taken over Capitol Hill as questions arise about the president's health. The White House has emerged as one of the nation's hotspots. ABC is reporting that more than 30 White House aides and Congress members have tested positive for COVID-19 in the last 10 days, some of whom attended the nomination ceremony for Amy Coney Barrett. The White House refuses to conduct contact tracing or investigate the outbreak of the superspreader event. 3 Republican senators have tested positive, forcing Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to delay the Senate's return until October 19. After the Commission on the Presidential Debates announced it would hold the second debate virtually, President Trump said he would not participate in it, calling it a joke.
No, I'm not going to waste my time on a virtual debate. That's not what debating's all about. You sit behind a computer and do a debate. It's ridiculous. And then they cut you off whenever they want.
Hours later, the president's campaign was calling for the debate to be delayed. But now the president's physician is clearing him to engage with the public starting on Saturday. An ABC News poll shows only 27% of Americans think Trump takes the risk of contracting the virus seriously enough. Medical expert Dr. Jerica Lamb echoes this idea, saying that his diagnosis was not a surprise.
In a way, his diagnosis was not a surprise for many healthcare professionals and public health officials. And even citizens, American citizens in general, because he has been very cavalier and very reckless in taking care of himself and people around him.
She hopes that this will be a wake-up call to the president and his base to take the pandemic more seriously.
His diagnosis hopefully has kind of sink into for his base and for those who are ambivalent about whether this COVID-19 is a hoax or for real. Now they're realizing, yeah, it's for real.
In other news this week, the first and only vice presidential debate of the 2020 election looked and felt quite different from the presidential debate. Senator Kamala Harris and Vice President Mike Pence were seated 12 feet apart with plexiglass barriers in between. All audience members were also required to wear masks, both of which are changes from the last debate. Also a change, fewer interruptions between the candidates. With more on Wednesday's event is Jenna Perry.
Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris delivered a far more civil debate than last week's catastrophe between Biden and Trump. The vice presidential candidates were separated by plexiglass as a safety precaution on the debate stage Wednesday night in Salt Lake City, Utah. Harris immediately criticized the Trump administration's response to the pandemic in light of his diagnosis last week.
The American people have witnessed what is the greatest failure of any presidential administration in the history of our country.
Harris said that she would take the vaccine if it was approved by health officials, but not if it was solely endorsed by the president. Pence accused Harris of undermining public confidence in a vaccine for personal gain.
And Senator, I just ask you, stop playing politics with people's lives.
Critics say that Harris's strategy was to play it safe. Despite this, Harris still faced harsh criticism from President Trump, who called her an unlikable monster.
And this monster that was on stage with Mike Pence, who destroyed her last night, by the way.
Chapman University campaign and elections professor Fred Smoller recognized Harris's debate strategy. noting how she avoided discussing Supreme Court packing and continually brought the discussion back to COVID-19.
They don't want to change the issue. They want to stay on this issue because they're winning. And when you're winning, you don't take chances.
Pence proved to be a more skilled debater than his running mate, Donald Trump. Pence defended the Rose Garden event that has now led to over 30 COVID-19 cases in the White House. He poked fun at Biden's failure to be aggressive with China and also accusing him of plagiarism.
I think he had to be more aggressive, but I don't think he was able to change the overall narrative of the campaign.
Viewers couldn't help but get distracted when a fly landed on Pence's head mid-debate, causing an uproar of memes on social media. But the vice president's frequent interruptions are also getting a lot of attention.
Feel the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Wait.
I'm speaking.
Pence often provided answers to questions other than the ones asked by moderator Susan Page. But both candidates avoided discussing the age and health of their ticket mates. Whoever wins in November will be the oldest president elected. CNN polls show 60% of viewers thought Harris won.
He is going to continue to do things to try to close the gap between his candidacy and Joe Biden's.
Biden has maintained his double-digit lead across the country. For Chapman News, I'm Jenna Perry.
In this breaking news, 6 men are charged with a plot to kidnap Michigan Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer, according to an unsealed federal crime complaint. The plot included plans to overthrow several state governments by storming capitals and taking hostages. The suspects believe Michigan government officials to be tyrants who are violating the U.S. Constitution. The FBI became aware of the Michigan-based militia through social media and undercover operations within the group. I'm Jasmine Sani. Back to you, Colette.
Stimulus negotiations are back in action. President Trump now pushing Congress to approve of new coronavirus relief measures, hours after killing talks about a second stimulus check for citizens until after the election. Trump is proposing $25 billion in aid for the airline industry and $135 billion in fresh loans for small businesses. Yet, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi still advocates for a broader $2.2 trillion package passed by Democrats in the lower chamber last week that extended federal unemployment benefits at $600 a week and another round of $1,200 stimulus checks. Republicans and Democrats remain divided over the economic relief. Coming up, find out how coronavirus is being handled, both poorly and expertly, on campus and around the world. And we'll show you 3 countries with fewer COVID-19 infections than Washington, D.C.
Today I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's go. This is the first rocket to get humans to Mars. Really tall. I'm a rocket structural engineer, designing and building parts of the rocket. You are the generation that will be stepping foot on Mars. Do I have a group of astronauts on my hands? Yes. You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.
Since March, Chapman students have been a rare sight on campus, but this week that began to change as graduate students return. If all goes well, undergraduates will follow on October 19th, less than 2 weeks from now. Adriana Ferrari has more on the developing story.
The physical return is completely optional, and all classes will still be available remotely. I spoke with Michael Karavet, a graduate student at Chapman, who is happy with the plan.
I'm glad that the university is allowing all the classes to operate in a hybrid style where those who can stay online are able to.
In this week's See You Safely Back update, the university states that all courses will be delivered as they were originally planned this past summer, through either online, hybrid, or in-person formats.
That wasn't what I signed up for when I had applied for the program, but I still feel like I'm getting out of the program what I expected when I applied.
Currently, the Chapman COVID-19 dashboard lists the number of total student cases as 5 in campus housing and 3 near the Orange campus. No students on the Rinker campus or faculty have contracted the virus.
As graduate programs continue limited in-person activities and facilities begin to open, undergraduate students across campus look to their professors and classmates in deciding whether a physical return is best for them. To check for weekly campus COVID cases, go to www.cusafelyback.chapman.edu/dashboard or look to Dean Price's weekly newsletters. I'm Adriana Ferrari for Chapman News. Back to you, Colette.
Thanks, Adriana. As reopening plans begin to take effect, I spoke to Dean Jerry Price about how Chapman is supporting students financially during the pandemic. With unemployment spiking to levels not seen since the Great Depression, many families are struggling to pay for the cost of higher education. According to a survey by One Class, more than half of college students say they can no longer afford their tuition.
I was supposed to have a fall internship, but unfortunately, they couldn't hire me again. And a big portion of that paycheck was supposed to go to cover my tuition.
Like many college students across America, Chapman students say that they too face financial strains due to the pandemic. The question is, what is a university doing to help? The two programs Chapman currently has for COVID-related financial assistance are the Student Government Association's COVID-19 Financial Relief Program and the Student Hardship Fund. SGA allocated $100,000 to provide students with up to $400 each for educational supplies.
I think my biggest hope is that it will give people some peace of mind and comfort going into the semester.
The Chapman administration also reallocated money in their annual budget towards the Student Hardship Fund, a program that helps pay for students' personal expenses.
Our whole goal is to keep them in school. We don't want a medical bill or a transportation problem or food to keep people from being able to stay in school.
And enrollment at Chapman has not taken a large hit following the pandemic, making administration hopeful that these financial programs are working.
We're just gratified that amid this pandemic, such a high percentage of students are staying enrolled. But it's very encouraging that once we help those students, they're usually back on their feet and running.
The funds have helped students like Tina get back on their feet.
When somebody's in a position like mine where their internship was canceled, where they're struggling, to find a job and they're dependent on the income to pay for their education, it's very helpful.
Although the coronavirus economy is an ongoing issue, SGA and the Chapman administration say they cannot yet confirm whether the financial aid programs will continue beyond the semester. Moving away from Chapman's campus, the coronavirus rages on around the world. As of this morning, 36 million COVID-19 cases have been reported globally. On Monday, the World Health Organization declared that 10% of the world's population may have already contracted the virus, which is more than 20 times the current number of confirmed cases. For weeks, we thought the coronavirus was being contained around the world. This week, we have a very different picture. A new wave of infections is prompting the French government to enforce tighter restrictions and forcing partisan businesses to close for the next 2 weeks. And Russia saw a spike on Monday, close to its previous May record of over 11,000 daily infections. In Moscow, school children have been ordered to stay at home for 2 weeks. Russia continues to have the fourth highest number of worldwide cases. While some countries are seeing spikes of COVID-19, other countries have successfully contained the virus. Following the White House's domino effect of new infections, Congressman Ro Khanna tweeted saying there are more recorded cases of COVID-19 in the White House than in New Zealand, Taiwan, and Vietnam combined. They have 124 million people. To find out how these countries are effectively containing the virus within their borders, Melissa Cho has a story from Taiwan.
Taking public transportation, dining at restaurants, and not needing to wear a mask outdoors? You might get goosebumps if you live in the US. But this is what life in Taiwan is like now. People from Taiwan, New Zealand, and Vietnam seem to be living in a 2020 alternate reality. Since mid-April, Taiwan has not had a single locally transmitted coronavirus case. Not a single one. Vietnam and New Zealand are following closely, both retaining long case-free streaks for about 100 days each. The secret to their successful pandemic response? Strict nationwide protocols that were immediately put into effect. Taiwan suspended all air travel to and from China 5 days after the first case was reported in January. A mask rationing system was announced in early February, and schools were delayed for 2 weeks. In Vietnam, the country issued a 3-week village-wide quarantine when a community near the capital city, Hanoi, reached 16 cases in February. The nation soon closed its borders, suspending international flights in March. And a couple thousand miles away, New Zealand implemented a countrywide lockdown in late March.
We are now a matter of hours away from an unprecedented lockdown of our country.
Then, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern declared a second lockdown in August when Auckland, the country's largest city, experienced a new cluster of cases. Each country continues to impose 2 weeks of government-mandated quarantine for travelers wishing to stay within their protected borders. While many other countries are seeing dramatic new surges in infections daily, people in these 3 countries are living nearly virus-free. The lesson from Taiwan, Vietnam, and New Zealand is that a proactive and early preparedness to combating the virus pays off, along with citizens who are willing to cooperate. Reporting maskless from Taipei, I'm Melissa Cho for Chapman News.
Thanks, Melissa. While nations continue to battle the outbreak of COVID-19, Armenia is currently battling an outbreak of war. Reporter Lindsay Arabian has a story.
Hundreds of people dead and thousands more wounded since fighting erupted between Azerbaijan and Armenia just over a week ago. At the heart of the conflict is Nagorno-Karabakh, known to Armenians as Artsakh. During the Soviet era, the region was allocated to Azerbaijan, despite its historic ethnic Armenian majority. When Azeris tried to overtake contested territory last week, tensions boiled over. Armenians have come together to aid the region during the fighting. Here at Chapman, the Armenian Student Association is pushing to further discuss the conflict.
We have had some efforts to reach out to the Chapman administration so we can have a statement put out to condemn this violence.
The students have expressed their frustration, saying they feel ignored by the lack of media attention.
The minute that Armenians need the world to be aware and to notice that there is a conflict going on that can make or break our country, no one is speaking up about it.
In LA, Armenian activists such as Gayane Movsisyan are also working hard to bring attention to the cause.
I have put together a donation drive, a protest. The protest that we're putting together is going to take place on October 14th. Hopefully we will get the media's attention.
The conflict is heightened by Turkey backing Azerbaijan and Russia backing Armenia. Despite the possibility of war, the US has yet to intervene. Many fear the threat of a second Armenian genocide, the first of which Turkey denies.
If Azerbaijan stopped attacking, there would be peace. If Armenia didn't fight, there would be no Armenia.
You can help the Armenian population by further educating yourself and others by posting, sharing, signing petitions, and donating to credible sources such as Armenia Fund. To my fellow Armenians, stay strong. This is Lindsay Arabian for Chapman News.
Thanks, Lindsay. Our hearts go out to all of those affected by the violence. The US, France, and Russia are starting to plan peace talks in Geneva about the conflict. Hurricane barrels through Mexico's top tourist destination. We'll talk with a family caught in its path.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Mexico was hard hit this week with Hurricane Delta. Reporter Nicole Zedek spoke with the family who survived the storm.
This week, Hurricane Delta hit the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The Category 2 storm made landfall between Cancun and Playa del Carmen before moving north towards the Gulf of Mexico. Although the hurricane weakened before making landfall, winds were still upwards of 100 miles per hour and forced more than 39,000 people to evacuate the area. Eve and Jess Green were there when the hurricane hit.
And when the hurricane came in, it was loud and you could hear the roof being peeled back.
Because Cancun is Latin America's #1 tourist destination, many people who evacuated were tourists and had to flee to an inland shelter.
And all they let us bring was our pillow, our blanket, and one change of clothes.
It was hot, it was smelly, it was gross. I've never smelled so bad in my life.
Hurricane Delta is expected to make landfall in the U.S. today, hitting many of the same cities that are still coping with the aftermath from Hurricane Laura in late August. Delta will be the 10th storm to make landfall in the United States this season, setting a record for most storms in 1 year. And from record hurricanes to record fires, California's August complex fire has burned over 1 million acres and is the largest in California's history. California's fires in total have scorched a record 4 million acres this year. That's an area larger than the state of Connecticut and more than double the previous record of burned land in California. Currently, the glass fire in Napa Valley has destroyed over 24 vineyards in wine country. Some of the wineries date back to the late 1800s. Over 70,000 people have had to evacuate areas of Napa and Sonoma. Unfortunately, fire season typically goes through mid-November, so we haven't seen the end of the flames just yet. Good news is here in Orange, temperatures are finally beginning to cool down and will stay that way through the weekend. Currently, it is 73 degrees here in Orange, and it's partly cloudy right now, but you'll see later in the day at around 1 p.m. the sun will come out. Now let's look at our national forecast. Up in Seattle, Washington, it is 66 degrees, and similar down in San Francisco at 65. Hopefully those cooler temperatures will bring some relief to the fires in that region. Heading east towards Las Vegas, it is 92 degrees, and if we continue east towards Denver, Colorado, it is 85. Similar down in Austin, Texas with 86, but if we go up north towards Minneapolis, you'll find that it is 83 degrees. Heading east towards Chicago, Illinois, it is 79 degrees. Now, if we go south towards Atlanta, Georgia, it is 77 and 86 in Miami, Florida. And you can expect rain in that region as well, especially as Hurricane Delta comes in towards the south. Up north towards Washington, D.C., it is 72 degrees, and similar in New York, it is 69 degrees. Now let's take a look at the local forecast of Orange County. Up in Westminster, it is 72 degrees, and if you're heading towards the beach this weekend, it is definitely expect some cooler temperatures with 71 in Newport and 72 in Laguna. Currently in Irvine, it is 74, same with Mission Viejo, and as you're traveling south towards San Clemente, it is 71. So definitely cooler temperatures all throughout the Orange County. Now let's take a look at the Orange 7-day forecast. Currently it is 73 degrees in Orange, but the high is 76 and the low is 63. Going into Saturday, it will be sunny with a high of 77 and a low of 61. Sunday, a little bit warmer, partly cloudy with a high of 79 and low of 57. Now the warmer temperatures come in on Monday with a high of 93 and a low of 63. Tuesday, we're almost hitting triple digits with a high of 97, low of 63, but it will begin to cool down again on Wednesday with a high of 91, same with Thursday, and low of 61 and 64. Definitely take advantage of those cooler temperatures this weekend because as you can see next week, the temperatures will begin to rise again. That is your weekly look ahead at the weather. I'm Nicole Zedek. Now for your sports updates, Erin Coogan has everything you need to know. Erin?
Thanks, Nicole. Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Coogan, and welcome back to another week of the best campus sports show. Let's get right into it and start off by talking about the latest in COVID-19 protocol and how this new method of bubbling is revolutionizing the way we approach modern-day sports. Groundbreaking with the pandemic is this concept of bubbling. In the early months of the virus, athletic coordinators at the collegiate and pro levels started devising a plan in which players and coaches would essentially isolate themselves for the length of their athletic season to eliminate foreign contact and allow for manageable tracing within their respective organizations. Games would be held at neutral facilities, which would reduce the amount of team travel, and no fans would be allowed into the stadiums. In theory, this sounds like a foolproof plan, and the NHL has even proven its effectiveness after completing a seemingly normal season in their bubble. However, the issue lies within the logistics and unwillingness of athletes to be separated from the outside world for months on end. This reluctance to bubble is leading to a number of positive cases, most recently seen in NFL Patriots quarterback Cam Newton and cornerback Stephon Gilmore, to top the 20-plus cases of the Tennessee Titans, and is now posing a real threat to the longevity of the 2020 NFL season. However, the MLB will be conducting the World Series tournament in its own bubble in Arlington, Texas, and the Wnba Finals are currently being held in Florida. Daily testing is being provided for those within those bubbles and appears to be effective in stopping the spread of the virus. In non-COVID related news, Houston Texans general manager Bill O'Brien was fired from his position as head coach late Monday night. After trading away big names like DeAndre Hopkins during the offseason and leading the team to an early 0-4 start, Twitter users were sent ablaze.
Texans fans watching Bill O'Brien leave the facility. Thank you, finally. And the Seattle Storm comes out on top of the 2020 WNBA Finals on Tuesday, taking down the Las Vegas Aces with 3 consecutive wins in the best-of-5 championship series.
Head up, one dribble, and just feeds Stewart.
Led by Sue Bird and tournament MVP Breanna Stewart, Tuesday's final score of 92-59 marks the largest margin in WNBA history and ties the Storm for most championship titles at 4. Finally, tonight could end it all as Game 5 of the NBA Finals is coming at 6 p.m. tonight, and a Lakers win would crown a new 2020 NBA champion. The Lakers lead the Clippers 3-1 in a best-of-7 series. Sports are alive and still kicking as we continue to fight the pandemic with our very own Chapman athletic programs to start up again as early as October 19th. We'll keep you updated on that and everything else in the sports world, but for now, I'm Aaron Coogan for Chapman News.
Remembering one of America's greatest guitarists losing his battle with cancer. House lawmakers are calling for the breakup of companies like Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google, saying they have become a monopoly, setting prices for commerce, searching, advertising, social networking, and publishing. The lawmakers are pushing for big changes to antitrust laws after a 16-month investigation into companies. Their report claims that large tech giants have abused their monopoly power for years. The report is expected to cause further action against the tech monopolies. And with more news in the world of entertainment is Jules Rector.
Hi everyone, I'm Jules Rector and welcome back to This Week in Entertainment. I'm so excited to be hosting this week, so let's get to it. Tragic news earlier this week as legendary guitarist and co-founder of Van Halen, Eddie Van Halen, died at the age of 65 after a long battle with cancer. Considered one of the greatest guitarists of all time, Van Halen was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2007. The band's original lead singer, David Lee Roth, paid his respects, saying, "What a long, great trip it's been." Other artists also honored Van Halen on Twitter, such as Gene Simmons from Kiss. And the band Weezer is even dedicating an entire album to him, naming it Van Weezer. As a rock and roll fan myself, my heart goes out to Van Halen's friends and family. In the movie world, the Academy announced that drive-in screenings will count towards a film's eligibility at the 93rd Oscar Awards. In addition to the new rules announced last spring to accommodate theater closures, the Academy has now added this 2-part addendum so you'll be able to see the Oscar-nominated films from the comfort of your car. And drive-ins might become the norm as Cineworld, the parent company to Regal Cinemas, announced temporary closures of its theaters in the US and UK starting as early as next week. Here in the US, Regal Cinemas is the second largest theater chain with 543 locations, and Cineworld is the largest in the UK. With theater shutdowns lasting much longer than anticipated, Cineworld issued a statement on Twitter confirming the news. However, theaters like AMC have vowed to stay open thanks to a recent deal with Universal. AMC's chairman CEO Adam Aron said, "Fortunately for AMC, our groundbreaking agreement with Universal Studios announced earlier this summer puts AMC in a position where we can open our theaters when others may feel the need to close." The agreement gives the theater chain a share in revenue coming from Universal's premium video on-demand service, allowing them to stay open. But companies like Warner Brothers are still skeptical about the timing of new releases following Tenet's poor box office numbers. The much-anticipated sci-fi film Dune, starring Zendaya, Timothée Chalamet, and Jason Momoa, has been pushed back to October 2021 after news of Cineworld's plans to close theaters. Wonder Woman 2 has also been pushed back until Christmas, and The Batman has been delayed until 2022. The film industry may be struggling, but the music industry is finding its way through uncertain times. To finish out our entertainment segment, we have Nicole Zedek reporting from Nashville about the COVID-19 country music scene. I'm Jules Rector. Now to you, Nicole.
In the heart of Music City, people are no longer clicking their cowboy boots to the rhythm of country tunes. Lower Broadway in Nashville, Tennessee is an iconic spot where local musicians play at restaurants and bars in hopes of becoming the next Luke Bryan. But COVID-19 restrictions made it almost impossible for live entertainment to continue.
So when COVID happened, all of that stopped. Just everything stopped.
Although the city is more lively now than the first shutdown in March, Nashville is only in phase 2 of reopening. Restrictions of phase 2 include no gatherings of more than 25 people, restaurants at 50% capacity, and a city curfew of 10:30 p.m.
It's not just country music here, you know, it's everything. If Music City wasn't Music City, it would be sad.
COVID is making it difficult for lesser-known musicians to perform, but the music industry is far from dying. One source of light during this time is Nashville's famous Grand Ole Opry, which has continued to live stream performances since the shutdown in March.
The whole goal was to make sure that the Grand Ole Opry continued.
The Opry has shown live music every week since it opened in 1925, and coronavirus wasn't about to destroy this 95-year streak. The Grand Ole Opry is a great example that the show must go on, and musicians here in Music City are certainly ready to get back on the stage. Reporting from Nashville, Tennessee, I'm Nicole Zedek for Chapman News.
Thanks, Nicole. The show must go on, but ours ends here. Don't miss an episode of Chapman News. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at chapmannews.tv and follow us on social media at Chapman News. I'm Colette Ngo. See you next week.